Taxiing the L-39 is a little bit tricky. It does not have nose wheel steering. The real aircraft only has differential braking. So you don't need a whole lot of power to get going. I mean, about 70-75% and 1 RPM. And just use a little bit of left brake to get rolling here and turn ourselves around. So the trick with taxiing this aircraft smoothly is to add a little bit of power before entering a turn, just as you apply the brakes here. And then start backing off the power as you exit the turn, back down to 70%. This aircraft is not that powerful, but it is light enough that it will move on its own a little bit if you have extremely lightweight or low fuel at idle thrust. Okay, so lined up and ready to go for takeoff. The L-39 is not a powerful aircraft. You really want to play to its strengths and avoid its weaknesses on takeoff, especially at a higher elevation airfield or on a very hot day. The plane only has about 3,800 pounds of thrust, and in a plane that weighs usually around 10,000 pounds at takeoff, that's not really a lot to work with. So you want to try and stay in ground effect as much as you can if you have available runway. Let your speed build up after takeoff before you retract everything and get going. So I set our flaps to half for the takeoff, as standard, and takeoff in an L-39, especially with limited runway, you want to be doing from a standing start with full brakes on and let the engine spool up all the way. The engine has a 10-second spool time. It doesn't sound too bad on paper, but you can see what happens here as I rev it up. Compared to propeller-driven planes or other jets, that is a very, very long time, just like the real aircraft. So in this plane, you really want to fly the engine first and worry about everything else second. That long spool up time will catch you off guard many times on approaches, especially to short runways. Once we're at full power, brakes on, we're ready to go. We're going to add a little bit of pitch up trim just to help us out, and release. So we're looking for a rotation speed on the airspeed indicator here of about 170 kph. And remember, that's in kilometers per hour, it's not knots here. And just after we clear the ground, we'll raise the gear and try and remain in ground effect a little bit. So start rotation, and we're up. Gear up. I'm just going to stay low to the runway and let speed build up. I'm going to raise the flaps at about 280 kph, like so. And then we start our climb. The L-39's best climb rate is around 380 kph. So we want to keep our climb rate fairly shallow if possible until we reach that speed. It's right about now, and then we can give it quite a bit more pull. So at low altitude like this, we've got typically about 4,500 feet per minute climb, which works out to about 20 meters per second or 21 meters per second here. Now on the climb out, especially initially, we want to pay close attention to the exhaust gas temperature here. The L-39 cannot run at full power forever, depending on outside air temperature, current engine temperature, things like that. You've got between 5 and 10 minutes of full power running before you're going to have to throttle back. It will continue to climb in temperature here until you reach an over-temp condition and possibly engage the EGT limiter and shut down your engine. So as soon as you're at a fairly safe altitude, you want to start throttling back. And you can throttle back to 103% right here. You can run the engine all day at that rate. It's only when you get up a little bit higher here, 104 to 106.5%, that the engine can't quite cool itself well enough. So initial climb, usually about 102% N1, and just let it do its thing. The aircraft is very neutrally balanced. It's very easy to trim. Once you get your climb rate set the way you want it, you really just have to trim it every once in a while to adjust for loss of pressure as we climb. And so that concludes the first tutorial video. The next one will cover cruise flight, probably some aerobatics, and maybe some emergency stuff. And thanks very much for watching.